The snow didn't care who you were. It fell the same on saints and sinners, on the righteous and the broken. And on the night they cast Elena Ward out of Thunder Hollow, it fell heavy, thick, wet flakes that clung to her hair and eyelashes like they were trying to bury her before she even hit the ground. She stumbled forward, barefoot, the thin cotton dress they'd left her in already soaked through. Her breath came in ragged gasps, visible in the freezing air, each exhale a little weaker than the last. Behind her, the settlement gates slammed shut with a finality that echoed across the valley. No one shouted goodbye. No one wept. They just locked the gate and went back to their warm fires, their hot meals, their clean consciences. Because in Thunder Hollow, exile wasn't cruelty. It was justice. And Elena Ward had committed the unforgivable sin of saying no. "You'll regret this," she'd told them, her voice steady even as they bound her hands. "All of you." Samuel Voss, the settlement's elder, and the father of the man she'd refused, had smiled. Not with warmth, with the satisfaction of a man who'd won. "The only thing you'll regret," he'd said, "is dying slow." Now 300 yards from the gate, Elena's legs gave out. She collapsed into a snowdrift, her body folding like paper. The cold bit into her skin, sharp and immediate. But after a few seconds, it started to fade. That was worse. She knew what that meant. Hypothermia didn't announce itself with pain. It whispered you to sleep. She tried to push herself up. Her arms wouldn't cooperate. Get up. Her vision blurred. The trees around her swayed, though there was no wind. Get up, Elena. But her body had already made its choice. It was shutting down, prioritizing the vital organs, abandoning the extremities. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore. Couldn't feel her toes. She thought about her mother, dead 6 years now. Wondered if she'd be waiting on the other side, or if people like Elena, stubborn, ungrateful daughters who dishonored their families, went somewhere else. She thought about Marcus Voss, the man they'd tried to force her to marry. Thought about his hands on her wrists, his breath on her neck, the way he'd smiled when his father announced the engagement, like she'd had any say in it. "You'll learn to love me," Marcus had whispered the night before the ceremony. "Or you'll learn to pretend. Either way, you're mine." She'd broken his nose with a candlestick. The settlement had not found that amusing. Her eyes drifted closed. The snow kept falling. And Elena Ward, 23 years old, born in a valley she'd never left, prepared to die in it. She didn't hear the horse, didn't hear the rider dismount, boots crunching through snow, didn't hear the low curse as rough hands turned her over, checking for a pulse. What she heard from some distant place her mind had retreated to was a voice. "Jesus Christ!" Not a prayer, a statement. Then, "You're not dying on me, not tonight." Strong arms scooped her up. She weighed nothing, or maybe he was just that strong. Her head lolled against something solid, a chest, a shoulder, warmth, actual warmth. Her body tried to curl toward it instinctively. "Stay with me," the voice said, gruff, impatient. "You hear me? Stay awake." She wanted to tell him she was trying, wanted to ask who he was, where he was taking her, why he cared, but her mouth wouldn't form words. All she managed was a small sound, something between a whimper and a sigh. "Good enough," the man muttered. The world lurched as he lifted her onto his horse, then swung up behind her. One arm locked around her waist, holding her upright against his chest. The other took the reins. "Hiya!" The horse bolted forward. Elena's awareness flickered in and out like a candle in the wind. She caught fragments, the rhythm of hooves on frozen ground, the man's heartbeat steady against her back, the smell of leather and smoke and something else, something earthy, pine, maybe, or sage. "Almost there," he said once, though she wasn't sure if he was talking to her or the horse. Time stopped meaning anything. Then there was light, lantern light, spilling gold across snow. Voices, multiple, sharp with alarm. "Boss, what the hell?" "Get Doc Harris, now." "Is she?" "Now, Merrick." Footsteps, running. More hands, gentler this time, lifting her down. A woman's voice, older, calm. "Bring her inside, quickly." Warmth again, but different, stifling, overwhelming. A fire. She was near a fire. Her body started shaking violently, convulsing, as her frozen limbs began to thaw. Someone wrapped blankets around her. Too many blankets. She couldn't breathe. "Easy," the woman's voice said, Let her adjust. Tom, more hot water. Bess, get those wet clothes off her before she catches pneumonia on top of everything else. Elena's eyes cracked open. Firelight. Wooden beams overhead, faces hovering above her, blurred and indistinct, and one face, sharper than the rest. A man's face, all hard angles and weathered skin, maybe 40, maybe older. Dark hair shot through with gray, eyes the color of storm clouds. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "Who?" she started, but her voice cracked. "Don't talk," he said. "Not yet. Who are you?" He almost smiled. Almost. "Caleb Rourke," he said. "And you just became my problem." She woke to daylight. Not the gray half-light of dawn, but full, bright sun streaming through a window she didn't recognize. For several seconds, Elena just stared at the ceiling, trying to orient herself. The beams were rough-hewn pine, the walls, unfinished wood. Somewhere nearby she could hear voices, muffled, indistinct. She sat up slowly. Every muscle in her body screamed in protest. She was in a bed, a real bed, with a mattress and quilts and an actual pillow. Her dress was gone, replaced by a clean cotton nightgown that definitely wasn't hers. Her feet were wrapped in bandages. So were her hands. Frostbite, she realized. Not severe, she could still wiggle her fingers and toes, but enough to need treatment. The door opened. A woman stepped in, maybe 50, with steel gray hair pulled back in a braid and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd seen it all and wasn't impressed by much. She carried a tray with a bowl of something that smelled like heaven. "You're awake," the woman said. Statement, not question. "Where am I?" "Ror Ranch. About 15 miles south of wherever you came from." The woman set the tray on the bedside table. "I'm Bess Halford. Housekeeper, cook, and apparently nurse when idiots get themselves frozen half to death." Elena blinked. "I didn't eat first, argue later." The bowl contained oatmeal, thick and steaming, with honey and actual cream. Elena's stomach clenched. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. 2 days? 3? She picked up the spoon with shaking hands. "Slow," Bess warned. "Your stomach's not ready for fast." Elena forced herself to take small bites. The oatmeal was perfect, warm, sweet, substantial. She wanted to cry. "You've been out for almost 18 hours, Bess said, settling into a chair by the window. "Doc Harris says you'll live, though you'll lose a couple toenails and the skin on your fingers is going to peel something fierce." "Who's Doc Harris?" "Local physician, rides circuit between here and Coldwater Ridge. Lucky for you, he was here checking on one of the ranch hands who broke his leg last week." Bess's eyes narrowed. "Unlucky for you, he's got questions. So does the boss." "Caleb Rourke." "That's the one." Elena set down the spoon. "Why did he save me?" Bess snorted. "Hell if I know. Caleb's not exactly the charitable type. Man runs this ranch like a military operation. Tight, efficient, no room for sentiment." She paused. "But he found you out there, half dead in the snow, and decided you were worth the trouble. That's not nothing." "I didn't ask to be saved." "No," Bess agreed. "But you're alive anyway. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" Before Elena could answer, boots sounded in the hallway. Heavy, purposeful. The door swung open without ceremony. Caleb Rourke looked exactly as she remembered. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that filled a room without trying. He wore working clothes, jeans, and a flannel shirt, both dusted with snow. His hat was in his hand. His eyes went straight to Elena. "You're awake." "Apparently." "Good. We need to talk." Bess stood. "She needs to rest. She needs to tell me why I found her dying in the middle of nowhere," Caleb cut in. Not harsh, but firm. "Because if someone's coming after her, I need to know before they show up on my land." Elena's pulse quickened. She hadn't thought that far ahead, hadn't considered that saving her might put him in danger. "No one's coming," she said quickly. Caleb's expression didn't change. "You sure about that?" "They think I'm dead." "And if they find out you're not?" Elena met his gaze, held it. "Then I'll deal with it." Something flickered in Caleb's eyes, amusement maybe, or respect. You can barely stand, he said. How exactly are you planning to deal with anything? That's my problem. It became my problem the second I pulled you out of that snowdrift. They stared at each other. Bess looked between them like she was watching a card game and trying to figure out who was bluffing. Finally, Caleb sighed. What's your name? Elena. Elena Ward. Where are you from? She hesitated. Giving him the truth felt dangerous, but lying felt worse. Thunder Hollow? Recognition flashed across his face. The settlement? Yes. They exiled you. Yes. Why? Elena's jaw tightened. I refused to marry someone. Caleb's expression darkened. They threw you out for that? It's more complicated. No, he said flatly. It's not. Bess made a disgusted sound. Thunder Hollow. Should have known. Place is run like a damn cult. It's not a cult, Elena said automatically, then stopped. Because maybe it was. Maybe she'd just never let herself see it. Caleb ran a hand through his hair. All right, here's how this is going to work. You stay here until you're healed. We've got a spare room, and Bess will make sure you're fed. Once you're strong enough to travel, I'll help you get wherever you need to go. I don't have anywhere to go. Then we'll figure something out. Elena stared at him. Why are you helping me? Caleb's jaw worked. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because no one should die for saying no. 3 days passed. Elena stayed in the small room off the kitchen, recovering. Her frostbite healed faster than expected. Doc Harris said she'd been lucky, that another hour in the snow and she'd have lost toes. As it was, she'd only lost a couple of nails and some skin. Small mercies. Bess brought her meals and clean clothes, simple things, work dresses and wool stockings that actually fit. Elena didn't ask where they came from, didn't want to know if they'd belonged to someone else. She spent the time watching the ranch through her window. Ror Ranch wasn't small. 20, maybe 30 buildings scattered across a valley that stretched for miles. Barns, stables, bunkhouses, storage sheds, fences everywhere corralling horses and cattle. And people. More than she'd expected. Ranch hands moving with purpose, tending animals, repairing equipment, hauling supplies. It was organized, efficient, and loud. Elena had grown up in silence. Thunder Hollow didn't believe in excess noise. Voices were kept low, laughter discouraged, music forbidden. Here, people shouted to each other across the yard, laughed, argued, lived without apology. It was overwhelming. It was wonderful. On the fourth day, Bess appeared with a pair of boots. You're strong enough to walk, she announced. Boss wants you to earn your keep. Elena looked up from the book she'd been pretending to read. Doing what? Whatever needs doing. We don't have room for freeloaders here. Bess's tone was matter of fact, not cruel. You want to stay? You work. That's the deal. Elena stood, testing her weight on her bandaged feet. They hurt, but not unbearably. Where do I start? Bess grinned. Kitchen. I need someone who can peel potatoes without complaining. Peeling potatoes turned into washing dishes. Washing dishes turned into helping with laundry. Laundry turned into mucking stables. Elena worked, not because she had to, Bess had made it clear she could rest if she needed, but because staying still felt dangerous. Like if she stopped moving, her mind would catch up with her body and she'd realize exactly how close she'd come to dying. The ranch hands watched her warily at first, curious but cautious, like she was a stray dog that might bite. One of them, a lanky man named Merrick with a scar across his left cheek, finally approached her while she was hauling water from the well. You're the girl the boss found, he said. Elena set down the bucket. I have a name. Everyone's got a name. Not everyone gets dragged back from the dead by Caleb Rourke. I didn't ask him to. Merrick studied her. No, I don't suppose you did. He tilted his head toward the main house. He tell you about this place? No. Figures. Caleb's not much for talking. Merrick leaned against the well. Ror Ranch has been here for 20 years. Caleb built it from nothing, just him and his brother, clearing land, raising cattle. Made a lot of enemies doing it, too. Land out here doesn't come easy, and people don't take kindly to someone claiming what they think is theirs. What happened to his brother? Merrick's expression shuddered. Ask him yourself. He walked away before she could respond. That night, Elena ate dinner in the kitchen with Bess and a couple of the older ranch hands. The conversation was easy, casual. Talk of weather, cattle, repairs. Elena stayed quiet, listening, learning. Caleb didn't join them. She'd seen him a few times over the past days, always at a distance, always working. He moved through the ranch like a general inspecting troops, catching problems before they became disasters, directing operations with minimal words. He didn't smile, didn't waste energy on pleasantries, but his people respected him. That much was obvious. After dinner, Elena stepped outside for air. The night was cold but clear, the sky packed with stars. She wrapped her shawl tighter and walked toward the barn, needing movement, needing space to think. She found Caleb there. He was standing in the open doorway, one shoulder against the frame, staring out at the dark valley. A cigarette burned between his fingers. He took a drag, exhaled smoke into the night. Elena almost turned back, but he'd already seen her. Can't sleep? He asked without looking at her. Didn't try. He nodded, like that made sense. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Elena said, Thank you. Caleb glanced at her. For what? Saving my life. Letting me stay. Not asking too many questions. I ask plenty of questions. Not the ones that matter. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. What questions matter? Elena hesitated, then, why you did it? Caleb took another drag. You already asked me that. You didn't really answer. Sure I did. No one should die for saying no isn't an answer. It's a principle. Same thing. It's not. Caleb turned to face her fully. In the dim light from the barn lanterns, his features were all shadow and sharp edges. You want the real answer? He asked. Yes. I found you dying in the snow, and I had a choice. Leave you there and go home, or bring you back and deal with the consequences. He flicked ash from his cigarette. I've made a lot of choices in my life I regret. Figured I'd try making one I wouldn't. Elena's throat tightened. That's it? That's it. You don't even know me. No, Caleb agreed. But I know what it looks like when someone's been thrown away, and I know what it costs to survive it. He met her eyes. You're still here, Elena Ward. That says more than words ever could. She didn't know what to say to that. Caleb stubbed out his cigarette. You planning to stay? I don't know. Fair enough. He pushed off the door frame. When you figure it out, let me know. He walked past her back toward the house. Elena stood alone in the cold, staring at the stars, and felt something shift inside her. Not hope, not yet, but possibility. 2 weeks became 3. Elena settled into the rhythm of ranch life. Wake before dawn, help Bess with breakfast, work through the day, kitchen, laundry, stable, wherever hands were needed, eat dinner with the crew, sleep hard. It was brutal, exhausting work. She'd never been happier. Thunder Hollow had taught her obedience, submission, silence. Here, she learned strength. Learned that her body could do more than she'd ever imagined. Learned that exhaustion could be satisfying if it came from purpose instead of fear. The ranch hands warmed to her slowly. Merrick started including her in conversations. A quiet man named Tom taught her how to properly saddle a horse. Even Bess, gruff and no-nonsense, began leaving extra biscuits on Elena's plate. Caleb kept his distance. He was always there, watching, working, directing, but he didn't seek her out, didn't offer more than necessary words. Elena told herself she didn't mind, told herself it was better this way, but sometimes, late at night, she'd catch herself looking for him across the yard, wondering what he was thinking, wondering if he ever looked back. The snow melted. Spring crept into the valley, tentative and slow. The frozen ground thawed into mud. Cattle were moved to higher pastures. Fences needed mending. Seeds needed planting. Elena learned to ride. Not well, she fell more than she stayed upright at first, but she learned. Merrick was a patient teacher, surprisingly gentle for a man who looked like he'd been carved from granite. You're getting better, he told her one afternoon as she managed to stay mounted through a full lap around the corral. Elena grinned, breathless and exhilarated. I didn't fall. Give it time. But she didn't fall. Not that day. That evening, she found Caleb watching from the fence. Their eyes met. He nodded once, acknowledgement, maybe approval, and walked away. Elena's heart did something complicated in her chest. Market. It happened on a Thursday. Elena was in the barn, mucking stalls, when she heard the commotion outside. Raised voices. The sharp crack of hooves on packed dirt. She dropped her pitchfork and moved to the door. 4 riders had entered the ranch yard. They sat their horses with the confidence of men who expected to be obeyed. The leader, a broad man with a thick beard, was speaking to Caleb in a voice loud enough to carry. Don't care what you think you're doing, Rourke. You're harboring stolen property. Elena's blood went cold. She knew that voice, Samuel Voss. Caleb stood his ground, arms crossed. I'm not harboring anything, and people aren't property. She's a runaway, exiled for crimes against the community. She told me. Didn't sound like much of a crime to me. You don't know what you're dealing with. Then enlighten me. Samuel's jaw worked. Elena Ward is promised to my son. That's a contract, witnessed and binding. She broke it, shamed our family. The settlement voted for Exile, but that doesn't void the agreement. She's not here, Caleb said flatly. A lie. Samuel's eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to get off my land. One of the other riders, younger, with Samuel's same build, leaned forward in his saddle. Marcus. Where is she? Marcus demanded. Not your concern. She's my wife. She's not your anything. Marcus's face flushed red. You don't get to decide that. Neither do you. The tension crackled like static. Elena stepped out of the barn. Every head turned. Marcus's expression twisted into something ugly, triumph mixed with rage. There, he spat. Told you. Samuel's eyes locked on Elena. Girl, get on a horse. You're coming home. Elena didn't move. Elena? Samuel's voice hardened. Don't make this worse. Worse than Exile? She asked. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Worse than leaving me to die? You chose that. I chose not to marry him. She pointed at Marcus. That's not the same thing. The settlement decided wrong. Silence. Then Marcus laughed, sharp, bitter. You think you have a choice now? He gestured at the ranch, at Caleb. You think this man's going to protect you? He's not. He's one man with a ranch to run. We're a community of 200. You do the math. Caleb's voice cut through like a blade. Get off my land. Samuel's hand moved toward his belt. Caleb's moved faster. A revolver appeared in his hand, not drawn dramatically, just suddenly there, aimed steady at Samuel's chest. I'm going to say it one more time, Caleb said quietly. Get off my land. For 5 long seconds, no one breathed. Then Samuel slowly raised his hands. This isn't over, Rourke. It is until you make it otherwise. Samuel jerked his reins. His horse wheeled. You're making a mistake, he told Elena. A big one. Wouldn't be my first. The 4 riders turned and rode out. Elena watched them go, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Caleb lowered his gun, didn't holster it. You all right? He asked. Elena nodded, didn't trust her voice. The ranch hands had gathered, watching, waiting. Caleb turned to face them. From now on, he said, voice carrying across the yard, we keep watch. Someone's always got eyes on the perimeter. If those men come back, I want to know before they reach the gate. Boss, Merrick said carefully, this could get ugly. It already is ugly. Caleb's expression was stone. But they're not taking her. Not from here. Elena stared at him. He still wasn't looking at her. Get back to work, he told the crew. They scattered. Caleb finally turned. We need to talk, he said. Elena followed him into the house. The office was small, just a desk, some chairs, shelves crammed with ledgers and maps. Caleb shut the door behind them. Sit. Elena sat. Caleb paced, 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. I need you to be honest with me, he said finally. How much danger am I in? I don't know. Guess. Elena thought about Thunder Hollow. about the elders, the rules, the rigid control they maintained. They won't attack openly, she said. Not directly. They'll apply pressure, legal pressure probably. Try to force your hand through the law. The law's 30 miles away and doesn't care about settlement politics. Then they'll make it care. Caleb stopped pacing. What does that mean? It means Samuel Voss has connections, money, influence. He'll find a way to make this your problem. It's already my problem. Then it'll get worse. Caleb's jaw tightened. And if I send you away, if you leave, they'll find me. Not if you go far enough. There's no such thing as far enough. Not for them. They stared at each other. So what do you want to do? Caleb asked. Elena stood. I want to stay. That's not, you asked what I want. That's my answer. Her hands curled into fists. I'm tired of running, tired of being afraid, tired of letting other people decide what happens to me. This isn't about what you're tired of. This is about survival. Then let me survive here. Elena, I'll work, I'll fight, I'll do whatever it takes. Her voice cracked. Please don't send me away. Caleb looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. You're going to get me killed, he muttered. Probably. And you're okay with that? No, but I'm asking anyway. Something that might have been a smile crossed his face. Might have been. All right, he said. You can stay. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He moved to the window, looked out at the ranch. If they come back, when they come back, it won't be pretty. I know. People might get hurt. I know. And you're still choosing this. Elena stepped up beside him. Outside, the ranch hands were returning to work, life continuing, purpose unfolding. I'm choosing me, she said quietly. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing me. Caleb glanced at her, and this time he smiled, really smiled. Then I guess we'd better get ready, he said. The watch started that night. Merrick took first shift, perched on the barn roof with a rifle and a spyglass. Tom took second. By dawn, every man on the ranch knew the drill. Eyes on the horizon, weapons close, no one rides out alone. Elena hated it. Not the protection, she wasn't foolish enough to reject that. But the weight of it. The knowledge that every precaution, every lost hour of sleep, every nervous glance toward the valley entrance existed because of her. Stop that, Bess said one morning, catching Elena staring out the kitchen window for the third time in 10 minutes. Stop what? Blaming yourself. Bess slapped dough onto the counter, began kneading with forceful precision. I can see it all over your face. You think this is your fault. It is my fault. Horseshit. Bess punched the dough. Those men made their choices. You made yours. Consequences don't equal fault. People could get hurt. People get hurt every day on a ranch. Horses kick. Cattle charge. Equipment breaks. Last month, Tom nearly lost a finger to a fence wire. Bess shaped the dough into a ball. Life's dangerous. You're just a different kind of dangerous than usual. Elena turned from the window. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you stop moping and start being useful. Bess gestured at a basket of carrots. Those need chopping. Get to it. Elena picked up a knife. They worked in silence for a while. Bess rolling out biscuits, Elena reducing carrots to uniform pieces. The rhythm was soothing, familiar. In Thunder Hollow, kitchen work had been penance, punishment for failures real or imagined. Here, it was just work. No shame attached. Can I ask you something? Elena said. Can't stop you. Why is Caleb doing this? Bess's hand stilled. He told you no one should die for saying no. That's what he said, not why he believes it. Bess studied her, flour dusting her forearms. You want his history. Ask him yourself. I'm asking you. Then I'm telling you to mind your business. Bess, some stories aren't mine to tell. Bess returned to her dough. But I'll say this. Caleb Rourke knows what it costs to stand alone, and he knows what it costs not to. Make of that what you will. Before Elena could respond, the door banged open. Merrick stepped in, hat in hand, expression tight. We've got visitors. Elena's stomach dropped. Thunder Hollow? No. Worse. Bess and Elena exchanged a glance. Define worse, Bess said. Sheriff, They found Caleb in the yard, already facing down two men on horseback. One wore a tin star pinned to his vest, a lean man with thinning hair and the look of someone perpetually disappointed by humanity. The other was younger, deputy probably, with nervous eyes that kept darting around the ranch. "Sheriff Hackett," Caleb said. Neutral tone. No warmth, but no hostility either. "Rourke." The sheriff tipped his hat. "Mind if we step inside? Got some questions." "Ask them here." Hackett's mouth thinned. "Rather not do this in front of your whole crew." "My crew's got a right to know what's happening on their land." "Your land. Their jobs." "Same thing." The sheriff sighed. "All right. Have it your way." He pulled a folded paper from his coat. "Got a complaint filed 3 days ago. Allegations of kidnapping and unlawful imprisonment." Caleb didn't blink. "Who filed it?" "Samuel Voss, elder of Thunder Hollow Settlement." "And who am I supposed to have kidnapped?" "Woman named Elena Ward." Hackett's eyes scanned the gathered ranch hands, landed on Elena. "That her?" Caleb stepped sideways, blocking the sheriff's view. "What if it is? Then I need to speak with her. Verify she's here of her own will." "She is." "Need to hear it from her." Elena pushed forward before Caleb could argue. "I'm here of my own will." Hackett studied her, not unkindly, but thorough, taking in the work dress, the worn boots, the healing frostbite scars on her hands. "You're Elena Ward?" "Yes." "You're here voluntarily?" "Yes." "No coercion? No threats?" "None." The sheriff nodded slowly. "You know, Samuel Voss is claiming you were abducted from Thunder Hollow. Says Rourke here took you against your consent." Elena's laugh came out sharp. "Samuel Voss exiled me. Left me in the snow to freeze. If anyone's guilty of attempted murder, it's him." Hackett's eyebrows rose. "That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. You got proof?" "I'm standing here, aren't I? That's proof enough that someone found me dying." The sheriff glanced at Caleb. "That how it happened?" "Found her half frozen about 15 miles northwest of here," Caleb confirmed. 3 weeks back. Brought her here, got her medical attention. She's been recovering since." "And the kidnapping claim?" "Bullshit." Hackett almost smiled. "Need more than that for my report." "Miss Ward is a free woman," Caleb said evenly. "She can leave any time she wants. Ask her yourself." The sheriff turned back to Elena. "You want to leave?" "No." "You want to press charges against Samuel Voss?" Elena hesitated. The smart answer was yes, turn this back on them, make them defend themselves. But pressing charges meant courts, lawyers, attention, meant exposing herself to a system that had already failed her once. "No," she said finally. Hackett looked disappointed. "Why not?" "Because I just want to be left alone." "That's not how the law works." "Then maybe the law needs to work different." The sheriff's expression shifted, something like respect crossing his weathered features. "All right," he said. "I'll file my report. Note that Miss Ward is here voluntarily, unharmed, and uninterested in pursuing charges." He refolded the paper. "But I'll tell you what I told Voss. This doesn't end here. Man's got connections. He pushes hard enough, I'll have to come back." "We'll be here," Caleb said. Hackett nodded. Started to turn his horse. Stopped. "One more thing, Rourke. Off the record?" "Go ahead." "Whatever's brewing between you and Thunder Hollow, keep it clean." "I don't want bodies on my desk." "Neither do I." "Good." The sheriff tipped his hat to Elena. "Ma'am." They rode out. Silence settled over the yard like dust. Then Merrick spat into the dirt. "Well, that was fun." "Back to work," Caleb ordered. The crew scattered. Slowly, reluctantly, but they scattered. Caleb caught Elena's arm as she turned to follow. "Inside," he said quietly. "Now." She followed him to the office. He shut the door, locked it, turned to face her with an expression she couldn't read. "You should have pressed charges," he said. "What good would that do?" "It would put them on the defensive, make them answer questions instead of asking them. It would also drag this out for months, maybe years." Elena crossed her arms. "I don't want revenge. I want peace." "Those aren't mutually exclusive. They are when one keeps you trapped in the past." Caleb moved to the window, stared out at the ranch. His shoulders were rigid, tension coiled in every line of his body. "They're not going to stop," he said. "I know." "Hackett's right. Voss has connections. Money. He'll keep pushing." "Let him." Caleb turned. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Elena stepped closer. "I understand that men like Samuel Voss hate losing control. I understand that he sees me as property he's entitled to reclaim. I understand that this won't end until either he gives up or I'm dead." Her voice steadied. "What I also understand is that I'm not running anymore." "This isn't about running. It's exactly about running." She met his eyes. "You saved my life. You gave me shelter. You stood between me and men with guns. You don't get to send me away now because things might get difficult." "Difficult." Caleb's laugh was harsh. "Elena, this goes past difficult. If Voss escalates, if he brings legal action, or worse, then we deal with it." "We?" "You're not alone in this. You made that choice when you pulled me out of the snow. I'm making mine now." They stared at each other. "You're stubborn," Caleb said finally. "So are you." "Yeah." Something that might have been admiration flickered across his face. "Yeah, I am." He moved past her, unlocked the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "You really want peace?" he asked without turning. "More than anything." "Then you'd better get ready for war." He left. Elena stood alone in the office, her heart pounding, and wondered if she'd just made the bravest decision of her life or the stupidest. Probably both. The days that followed settled into a strange new normal. Work continued, cattle needed tending, fences needed mending, life didn't pause for political disputes. But underneath the routine ran a current of tension no one talked about directly. Elena threw herself into the work harder than before. If she was going to stay, if she was going to be the reason these people faced danger, then she'd earn that risk. She learned to rope cattle from Tom, who had infinite patience and a teaching style that involved more demonstration than lecture. She learned to shoe horses from a wiry man named Davidson, who chain-smoked hand-rolled cigarettes and never spoke unless spoken to. She learned to shoot from Merrick. That last one surprised her. "You're staying," Merrick said one afternoon, appearing at her elbow while she hauled feed bags. "That means you'd better know how to protect yourself." "I thought that's what you all were for." "We can't be everywhere." He gestured toward the practice range they'd set up behind the barn. "Come on." The rifle felt foreign in her hands, heavy, awkward, dangerous. Merrick showed her how to hold it, how to sight down the barrel, how to breathe and squeeze instead of pull. "Don't anticipate the recoil," he instructed. "Let it surprise you." She fired. The bullet went wide, kicking up dirt 10 feet left of the target. "Again." She fired. Wide right this time. "Again." 5 shots. None of them came close. Elena lowered the rifle, frustration burning in her chest. "This is useless." "It's practice. Practice is never useless." "I can't hit anything." "Not yet." Merrick took the rifle, reloaded it, handed it back. "But you will." "Know why?" "Because you're going to make me stand here until I do?" "Because you're not scared of it anymore." Elena blinked. "What?" "First shot, you flinched, expected it to hurt. By the 5th shot, you weren't flinching, you were aiming." He tapped the rifle barrel. "That's progress. Everything else is just repetition." They practiced until Elena's shoulder ached and her ears rang. She hit the target twice, glancing blows. Nothing impressive, but hits nonetheless. "Good," Merrick said as the sun started to set. "Same time tomorrow." "Why are you doing this?" Elena asked. Merrick's scarred face was unreadable. "Because Caleb asked me to, and because I've seen what happens when people can't defend themselves." He started walking back toward the barn. "Don't be one of them." That night at dinner, Elena sat with the crew for the first time. Not at Bess's invitation. She just grabbed her plate and settled at the long table where the ranch hands ate. No one protested. Tom shifted to make room. Davidson nodded acknowledgement. Merrick grunted something that might have been approval. The conversation flowed around her, talk of weather, horses, upcoming auctions, normal things, safe things. Caleb sat at the head of the table, mostly silent, but his presence anchored the room. Every so often, someone would direct a question his way. "Should we move the herd to the north pasture? Did you see the fence post that's rotting?" And he'd answer with minimal words, decisive, clear. Elena watched him when she thought he wasn't looking. Caught him watching her when she wasn't. Their eyes met. Neither of them looked away immediately. Then Bess dropped a pan in the kitchen with a clatter that broke the moment, and the world resumed moving. After dinner, Elena helped wash dishes. Bess was quieter than usual, working with an efficiency that suggested she had thought she wasn't sharing. "Spit it out," Elena said finally. "Don't know what you mean." "You've been staring at me for 10 minutes. Bess scrubbed a pot with unnecessary force. "Just wondering if you know what you're doing." "Washing dishes? Don't be smart." Bess set the pot aside. "I mean with Caleb." Elena's hand stilled in the dishwater. "I'm not doing anything with Caleb." "No, but you're thinking about it." "I'm not." "Honey, I've been running this kitchen for 12 years. I know the difference between someone who's grateful and someone who's interested. You're crossing into the second category." Heat flooded Elena's face. "That's not—" "I'm not judging," Bess cut in, "but I am warning. Caleb's a good man, probably the best man I've ever worked for. But he's not simple. He's got history, scars that don't show. You go down that road, you'd better be ready for what you find." "I'm not going down any road." "Not yet." Bess dried her hands. "But you will. And when you do, don't say I didn't warn you." She left Elena alone with the dishes and her thoughts. Neither were particularly clean. 3 days later, Marcus Voss came back. This time, he came alone. Elena was in the garden, a small plot behind the house where Bess grew vegetables, when she heard the horse. She looked up, shading her eyes against the afternoon sun, and felt her stomach drop. He looked worse than she remembered, thinner, angrier. His nose had healed crooked from where she'd broken it. "Elena," he called from outside the fence. She stood slowly. "Leave." "I need to talk to you." "No, you don't. 5 minutes, please." The please surprised her. Marcus didn't beg, didn't ask permission. Against her better judgment, Elena walked to the fence, kept it between them. "Talk," she said. Marcus dismounted, stood with his hands at his sides, non-threatening. It looked practiced, deliberate. "I'm sorry," he said. Elena laughed, couldn't help it. "No, you're not." "I am, for—" He gestured vaguely. "For all of it, the engagement, pushing you, the exile. I didn't know they'd actually throw you out. You stood there and watched. I know." You smiled. His jaw tightened. "I was angry. You humiliated me. I rejected you. That's not the same thing." It felt the same. He ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I'm not good at this. Apologies, admitting I was wrong, but I am wrong. My father, the elders, we all were. What happened to you wasn't justice, it was cruelty." Elena studied him, searched for deception, found only exhaustion. "Why are you here, Marcus?" "To ask you to come home. Thunder Hollow isn't my home." "It could be, if you came back, if you agreed to marry you?" Elena shook her head. "You haven't changed at all." "I have. That's what I'm trying to tell you." He stepped closer to the fence. "I talked to my father, convinced him to drop the charges, to leave you alone. But he'll only agree if you come back voluntarily. If you—" He swallowed. "If you give us another chance." "Us?" "Me. You. A real engagement this time. One you choose." For a moment, Elena almost pitied him. Almost. "I don't love you, Marcus. You could learn to." "No, I couldn't." "Elena, you want to know why I broke your nose?" She leaned against the fence. "It wasn't because you pushed me, or because your father announced our engagement without asking. It was because when you grabbed my wrist, when you pulled me close and told me I'd learn to love you, I saw my whole life, every day, every year, decades of pretending, of being grateful for scraps of kindness, of apologizing for wanting more. It wouldn't be like that." "It would be exactly like that." Elena straightened. "You're not here because you love me. You're here because you can't stand that I chose something else. Someone else." Marcus's expression darkened. "Rourke. This isn't about him, isn't it?" His voice turned sharp. "You think he's better than me? Safer? He's a rancher with enemies and a violent past. He'll get you killed." "Maybe, but that'll be my choice." "Your choice?" Marcus gripped the fence. "You stupid girl. You think you have choices? You think leaving Thunder Hollow made you free? You're still trapped. You've just traded one cage for another. Get off this land. Or what? You'll shoot me? He laughed bitterly. You don't even know how to hold a gun. She's learning. Both of them turned. Caleb stood 10 feet away, rifle in hand. Not aimed, just held, ready. Time to go, Voss, he said. Marcus's hands tightened on the fence. This is between me and Elena. No, it's not. She was promised to me. She's not a horse. You don't get to claim her. And you do? Caleb's expression didn't change. She claims herself. Now leave. For a heartbeat, Marcus looked like he might argue, might push back, might do something colossally stupid. Then he saw something in Caleb's eyes, some line drawn in absolute stone, and backed down. This isn't over, he said to Elena. It's been over, she replied. Marcus swung onto his horse, yanked the reins harder than necessary. You're going to regret this, he told Caleb. Both of you. Probably, Caleb agreed. Leave anyway. Marcus rode out at a gallop, kicking up dust. Silence settled. Elena realized she was shaking. You all right? Caleb asked. I'm fine. You're not. I will be. He studied her, then lowered the rifle, engaged the safety. What did he want? For me to come back. Marry him. Pretend none of this happened. What did you tell him? No. Good. Caleb turned toward the house. He comes back again. You don't talk to him alone. Understood? I can handle Elena. He stopped, looked back at her. I know you can handle yourself. I've seen you learn to ride, to shoot, to work 14-hour days without complaint. I know you're strong, but strength doesn't mean you have to face everything alone. Something in her chest cracked open. Okay, she said quietly. He nodded, started to leave again. Caleb? Yeah? Thank you for... She gestured vaguely. All of it. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. You already thanked me. I know, but I mean it more now. This time he did smile. Small, but real. You're welcome. He left her in the garden, surrounded by growing things and the scent of turned earth, feeling more anchored than she had in years. The weeks bled together. Spring deepened into early summer. The ranch exploded with activity. Calving season, branding, preparing for the summer auctions. Elena worked through all of it, her hands toughening, her body strengthening, her skills sharpening. Merrick pronounced her adequate, with a rifle, which Elena had learned was his version of high praise. Tom taught her to track game through the forest. Even Davidson warmed to her, or at least stopped pretending she didn't exist. Bess declared her almost competent in the kitchen, which Elena chose to interpret as a compliment. And Caleb kept his distance, kept things professional, boss and employee, rescuer and rescued. But sometimes Elena would catch him watching her across the yard, and sometimes their hands would brush passing tools, and sometimes at dinner their eyes would meet and hold just a second too long. Neither of them acknowledged it, but both of them felt it. One evening in June, Elena found herself alone in the barn. The crew had gone to town for supplies, Bess was visiting a friend, and Caleb was somewhere dealing with paperwork. The quiet was almost unnatural after months of constant noise and motion. She was brushing down one of the horses, a chestnut mare named Copper, when she heard footsteps. Caleb appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the setting sun. Thought everyone had gone to town, he said. Someone needed to stay, feed the animals. I could have done that. So could I. He stepped into the barn, moved to the stall across from hers, began checking a gelding's hooves with practiced efficiency. They worked in companionable silence. Then Caleb said, You've gotten good at this. At what? All of it. Riding, shooting, ranch work. He set down the gelding's hoof. You've become one of the crew. That was the goal, wasn't it? Earn my keep. It was survival. This is different. Elena paused her brushing. How? You're not just surviving anymore. You're building something. So are you. I've been building this ranch for 20 years. I meant with me. The words came out before she could stop them. You're building, she faltered. I don't know, something. Caleb turned to face her fully. In the dim barn light, his features were all shadow and hard lines. What do you want, Elena? The question hung between them. I don't know, she'd admitted. I've spent so long being told what to want that I'm not sure I know the difference anymore. Figure it out. Not harsh, almost gentle. Because whatever's happening here, between Thunder Hollow, between us, it's going to come to a head. And when it does, you need to know what you're fighting for. What are you fighting for? He was quiet for a long moment. I'm fighting, he said finally, for the right to choose who stays on my land. That's it. That's all. But the way he looked at her suggested it wasn't all. Suggested it was so much more complicated than that. Elena stepped out of the stall, closed the distance between them, stopped just close enough to see the pulse beating in his throat. I want to stay, she said, not because I'm afraid, not because I have nowhere else, because I choose this ranch, this life. She paused. You. Caleb's jaw tightened. Elena, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you the truth. The truth is complicated. So uncomplicate it. He laughed, short, sharp. If only it were that simple. Why isn't it? Because I'm not... He stopped. Started again. I'm not the man you think I am. I've done things. Made choices. There's a reason I built this ranch in the middle of nowhere, Elena. A reason I don't go to town unless I have to. A reason people like Sheriff Hackett look at me the way they do. I don't care. You should, but I don't. She held his gaze. Whatever you've done, whoever you were, that's your past. Not your present. Not who you are now. You can't know that. I've spent 4 months watching you, watching how you treat your crew, how you run this place, how you've protected me even when it cost you. That tells me everything I need to know. Caleb reached up, almost touched her face, then dropped his hand. You're going to get hurt, he said quietly. I'm already hurt. I was hurt before I got here. The difference is now I'm choosing what I heal into. For a moment, she thought he might close the distance, might give in to whatever current was pulling between them. Instead, he stepped back. This isn't the right time, he said. When will be? I don't know, but not now. Not while Thunder Hollow's breathing down our necks, not while you're... He gestured vaguely. Still figuring out who you are. It stung, but Elena recognized truth when she heard it. Okay, she said. Okay? I'll wait. But Caleb? She caught his hand, held it. Don't make me wait forever. He squeezed her fingers once, brief, warm. Then he let go and walked away. Elena stood alone in the barn, her heart pounding, and knew with absolute certainty that everything was about to change. She was right. 2 days later, the riders appeared on the ridge. Not 4 men this time. Not 10, 20, maybe more. They sat their horses in a long line against the sky, watching the ranch like vultures circling prey. Caleb saw them first. He was in the yard when Merrick came running from the north pasture, out of breath, pointing toward the ridge. Boss, we've got a problem. Within minutes, the entire crew had assembled. Every man armed, every eye on that distant line of riders. Thunder Hollow? Tom asked. Has to be, Merrick said. Caleb studied them through his spyglass. Counted. Calculated. They're not attacking, he said finally. Not yet. Then what are they doing? Sending a message. What message? Caleb lowered the spyglass. That we're outnumbered. Elena pushed through the gathered men. How many? 23. Armed, organized. What do we do? Caleb looked at her. His expression was hard, decided. We get ready, he said, because they're not going away, and neither are we. He turned to his crew. Double the watch. No one sleeps without someone else awake. Weapons stay loaded. Horses stay saddled. If they come down from that ridge, I want to know about it before they're halfway here. And if they attack? Davidson asked. Caleb's voice was stone. Then we defend what's ours. The men scattered to their positions. Elena stayed. This is it, isn't it? She said. What you warned me about. Yeah. I'm sorry. Don't be. Caleb checked his rifle. You didn't start this. They did. All you did was survive. That's not... Elena. He met her eyes. Whatever happens next, you stay close. You stay armed, and if I tell you to run, you run. Understood? I'm not running. If I tell you to, I'm not running, she repeated, firmer this time. Not from them. Not from this. We stand together or we don't stand at all. Caleb stared at her, then shook his head, something like respect crossing his features. You're going to be the death of me, he muttered. Probably, Elena agreed, but not today. She took the rifle Merrick offered her, checked the chamber, made sure the safety was off. On the ridge, the riders hadn't moved. Below, the ranch prepared for war. And Elena Ward, who'd once been left to die in the snow, stood in the center of it all and felt something she'd never felt before. Not fear, not anymore. Purpose. The riders stayed on the ridge for 3 hours. Just sat there, silhouettes against the afternoon sky, making their presence known. Making sure Caleb and his crew understood exactly how outnumbered they were. Then, as the sun began its descent, they turned as one and disappeared over the ridge. No shots fired. No words exchanged. Just a promise written in their formation. We'll be back. They're testing us, Merrick said, lowering his rifle. Seeing how we react. Caleb nodded, his jaw tight. And now they know we're ready. Are we? Tom asked. Ready, I mean. 23 against 14? 15, Elena corrected. I can shoot. Tom looked at her, then at Caleb. Boss? Caleb didn't answer immediately. He was still staring at the ridge, calculating something in his head. Finally, he turned to face his crew. Numbers don't win fights, he said. Terrain does. Strategy does. Knowing what you're protecting. His eyes swept across them. They have more men. We have home advantage. We know every inch of this land. They don't. That matters. And if they burn us out, Davidson asked, ever practical, then we make sure we're not inside when they try. Bess appeared from the house, wiping her hands on her apron. Someone want to tell me what in hell is happening? Company, Merrick said. The unwelcome kind. Bess looked at the ridge, then at Caleb. How long do we have? Tonight, maybe. Tomorrow at the latest. Caleb holstered his pistol. They're giving us time to panic, to make mistakes. Then we don't panic, Elena said. Everyone looked at her. We don't panic, she repeated more firmly. We prepare. We fortify. We turn this ranch into something they can't take without paying a price they're not willing to pay. Caleb's expression shifted. Surprise, maybe. Or approval. She's right, he said. Tom, Merrick, take 4 men and start moving supplies into the root cellar. Food, water, ammunition. Enough for a week if we need it. Davidson, you and the others reinforce the barn doors, board up the ground floor windows on the house. Make them work for every inch. The men moved immediately, scattering to their tasks. Caleb caught Elena's arm. You, with me. He led her to the house, into his office. Shut the door. That was either very brave or very stupid, he said. Which do you think? Both. He moved to a cabinet, unlocked it, pulled out a wooden box. Inside were 2 pistols, smaller than his Colt but well maintained. You know how to use one of these? Merrick showed me rifles. Same principle. Shorter range, faster firing. He loaded one, showed her the mechanism. Keep this on you. Always. If they get inside, if things go wrong, you use this. Elena took the pistol. It felt heavier than it should. I'm not going to need it, she said. Probably not, but I'm not taking chances. He loaded the second pistol, tucked it into his belt. There's something else you need to understand. If this goes the way I think it will, if they actually attack, they'll want me. Yes. Then I'll make sure they don't get me. Caleb's hand closed over hers, warm and solid. I'm not going to let it come to that. You can't promise that. Watch me. They stood close, too close, the air between them charged with everything they hadn't said. Elena could feel his pulse through his grip, fast and steady. Why are you doing this? She asked. Really, not the principal answer, the truth. Caleb's eyes searched hers. You want the truth? Always. Because the first time I saw you, you were dying, and something in me decided right then that you weren't allowed to. That the world... He stopped, started again. That I wasn't going to let the world take one more thing from me, even if that thing was a stranger. I'm not a stranger anymore. No. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. You're not. The moment stretched, tightened, then boots pounded in the hallway and Merrick's voice shouted, "Boss, they're moving!" Caleb released her hand, strode to the door. Elena followed. Outside, the crew had gathered again, all eyes on the ridge. The riders had returned, but this time they weren't just watching. They were descending, moving in a loose formation down the hillside. "How many?" Caleb asked. "Same 23, Merrick said. "But they're not charging, moving slow, deliberate." "They want to talk," Tom guessed. "Or they want us to think they want to talk," Davidson countered. Caleb grabbed his rifle. "Everyone holds position. No one fires unless I give the word. Understood?" A chorus of affirmatives. The riders reached the valley floor, kept coming, stopped about 100 yards out, just within shouting distance. Samuel Voss rode at the front, flanked by Marcus and two other men Elena didn't recognize. The rest spread out behind them in a show of force that was impossible to misinterpret. "Rourke!" Samuel's voice carried across the space. "We need to talk!" Caleb stepped forward, rifle held loosely. "Then talk. From there. This would be easier face to face." "I'm sure it would. For you." Samuel's jaw worked. Even from a distance, Elena could see the frustration on his face. "I'm giving you one last chance," Samuel called. "Hand over Elena Ward. Walk away from this. No one has to get hurt." "She doesn't want to go with you. She doesn't know what she wants. She's been manipulated." "She's standing right here," Elena shouted, stepping up beside Caleb. "And I know exactly what I want." Samuel's attention snapped to her. "Elena, be reasonable. You're confused. This man has filled your head with, 'This man saved my life. You tried to end it. We gave you a choice. You gave me an ultimatum. That's not the same thing." Marcus pushed his horse forward. "Elena, please, just come home. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix. I made my choice." A choice based on fear and desperation. A choice based on wanting to live. Her voice rang clear across the yard. "Something you never allowed me to do." Silence fell. Samuel's expression hardened. "Very well. If that's your final answer, it is. Then you forced our hand." He raised his voice, addressing Caleb now. "We'll return at dawn, with twice as many men. You can surrender the girl peacefully, or we'll take her by force. Your choice." "She's not a possession," Caleb said. "You don't get to take her at all." "We'll see about that." Samuel wheeled his horse. The others followed, but Marcus lingered, staring at Elena with an expression that mixed anger and something else. Something that might have been grief. "You're going to regret this," he said quietly. "When people die tomorrow, their blood is on your hands." "No," Elena replied. "It's on yours, all of you, for refusing to let me go." Marcus turned his horse and rode after the others. The crew watched them retreat into the gathering dusk. "Dawn," Tom said. "That gives us maybe 12 hours. "Then we'd better use them," Caleb said. He turned to face his men. "I want every rifle we have loaded and positioned. 2 on the roof, 2 in the barn loft, the rest spread around the perimeter. Sight lines clear, ammunition close. We turn this place into a fortress." "They'll have 46 men come dawn," Merrick pointed out. "I can count. Doesn't change what we're doing." "Boss, maybe—" Tom hesitated. "Maybe we should consider their offer. Not surrender Elena, but negotiate. Find a middle ground." "There is no middle ground," Elena said. "They want me back in Thunder Hollow, married to Marcus, under their control. Anything less than that isn't compromise. It's just slower submission." Tom looked uncomfortable. "People are going to die tomorrow." "I know." "And you're okay with that?" "No. But I'm not okay with going back either." She met his eyes. "If you want to leave, leave. I won't blame you. This isn't your fight." "It became our fight the day the boss brought you home," Tom said quietly. "I'm just making sure you understand the cost." "I understand." Caleb's hand landed on her shoulder, brief and grounding. "Everyone inside, we have work to do, too." The next hours blurred together in a frenzy of preparation. Windows were boarded, ammunition distributed, escape routes planned. Bess filled every container she could find with water and moved them to the cellar. Davidson and 2 others reinforced the barn with spare lumber, creating firing positions behind improvised barriers. Elena helped wherever she could, her hands remembering the work even as her mind raced ahead to dawn, to what was coming, to the violence that seemed inevitable now. Around midnight, Caleb found her on the roof, checking sight lines like Merrick had shown her. "You should rest," he said. "Can't." "Elena, if I close my eyes, I'll see them, all of them. The men from Thunder Hollow, the crew here, you." She lowered the rifle. "I'll see what I'm about to cost everyone." Caleb settled beside her, his shoulder warm against hers in the cool night air. "You want to know what I see?" he asked. "What?" "A woman who survived being thrown away, who could have run a dozen times but chose to stay, who's about to face down an army because she refuses to be owned." He was quiet for a moment. "I see someone worth fighting for." Elena's throat tightened. "That's not—" "It is. And tomorrow, when they come, I need you to remember that. Not the guilt, not the cost, just that simple fact." He stood, offered his hand. "Come on. You need sleep even if you can't get it." She let him pull her to her feet. They climbed down from the roof together, their hands linked in the darkness. At the base of the ladder, Caleb didn't immediately release her. "Whatever happens tomorrow," he said, "you stay alive. Promise me." "Only if you promise the same." "Deal." They stood close enough that Elena could see the lines around his eyes, the gray threading through his hair, the exhaustion he was trying to hide. "Caleb," he kissed her, not gently, not tentatively, but like a man who'd been holding back for months and finally ran out of reasons to. Elena froze for half a heartbeat, then kissed him back just as fiercely. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. His arms came around her, solid and sure. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Caleb rested his forehead against hers. "I wanted to wait," he said, "until things were settled, until you'd had time to—" "Shut up," Elena whispered. "Just, for once, shut up and let this be enough." So he did. They stood together in the dark, holding each other, while around them the ranch prepared for war. Dawn came too fast. Elena woke to Bess shaking her shoulder, whispering urgently, "They're here." She was up immediately, grabbing her pistol, checking the load. Around her the house was already alive with controlled chaos, men moving to positions, final preparations being made. Caleb was on the porch, rifle in hand, watching the horizon. Elena joined him. The sun was just breaking, painting the valley in shades of gold and red. And silhouetted against that light, descending from the ridge in two columns, came the riders. Merrick had been right. There were at least 40 now, maybe more. Organized, armed, moving with the coordination of men who'd planned this. "Here we go," Caleb murmured. The riders spread out as they approached, forming a loose semicircle around the ranch buildings. Samuel and Marcus rode at the center, flanked by men Elena recognized from Thunder Hollow. Farmers, shopkeepers, people she'd known her entire life. They stopped 50 yards out. Samuel raised his hand. The riders stilled. "Caleb Rourke," he shouted, "this is your final warning. Send out Elena Ward, and we'll leave peacefully." "And if we don't," Caleb called back, "then we take her by force. And anyone who dies defending her, their blood is on your conscience." "Funny. Was just thinking the same about you." Samuel's expression darkened. "You're outnumbered 3-1. You can't win this." "Maybe not. But we can make sure you don't either." "Last chance, Rourke." Caleb's grip tightened on his rifle. "Come take her then, if you can." For a moment, nobody moved. Then Samuel dropped his hand. The riders surged forward. "Fire!" Caleb roared. The ranch erupted. Rifle fire cracked from the roof, from the barn loft, from the windows. The first wave of riders faltered as bullets tore through their ranks. 2 men fell. A horse screamed and went down, throwing its rider, but they kept coming. Elena raised her pistol, sighted on a rider charging the porch, squeezed the trigger. The recoil jolted her arm. The man jerked in his saddle but didn't fall. She fired again. This time he tumbled backward, hitting the ground hard. Her stomach twisted, but she forced it down. Aimed at the next target. The world narrowed to sounds and moments. Gunfire, shouting, the thunder of hooves. A window shattered somewhere inside. Merrick yelled something from the roof. Tom returned fire from the barn, steady and methodical. Caleb moved beside her like a machine, firing, reloading, firing again, every shot deliberate, every shot counting. "They're trying to flank!" someone shouted. Elena turned, saw riders circling toward the back of the house. She fired until her pistol clicked empty, then ducked inside to reload. Her hand shook as she fumbled with the cartridges. Bess appeared, thrust a loaded rifle into her arms. "Second floor, east window," Bess snapped. "They're climbing." Elena ran. She burst into a bedroom just as a man hauled himself through the window. He saw her, started to raise his gun. She fired. He fell back out the window with a cry. Elena's breath came in gasps. She'd just shot a man. Maybe killed him. The thought should have paralyzed her. Instead, she moved to the window, checked for more climbers, found 3 trying to scale the side of the house. She fired until they scattered. Below, the battle raged. The Thunder Hollow riders had broken through the outer defenses, were fighting in the yard now. Hand to hand in some places, still exchanging gunfire in others. Elena saw Davidson go down, clutching his leg. Saw Tom drag him toward the barn. Saw Marcus fighting his way toward the house, toward her. She aimed at him, finger on the trigger. Couldn't pull it. Not Marcus. Anyone, but the hesitation cost her. Marcus made it to the porch, disappeared from her sightline. "Caleb!" she screamed. No response. The noise was deafening. Elena ran for the stairs. She hit the main floor just as Marcus kicked in the front door. They locked eyes across the entryway. "Elena," he panted, "come with me. Now. This doesn't have to. Get out. They're going to kill everyone here, including you. Is that what you want? I want you to leave." "I can't do that." He moved toward her. Elena raised her pistol. "Don't. You won't shoot me. Try me." Marcus took another step. "You're not a killer, Elena. I know you." "You don't know anything about me." But her hand wavered. Marcus lunged. The shot that rang out didn't come from Elena's gun. It came from behind her. Marcus stumbled, eyes wide, a red stain spreading across his shoulder. He looked past Elena, expression shifting from shock to rage. Elena turned. Caleb stood in the hallway, smoke curling from his rifle. "She said leave," he said flatly. Marcus pressed a hand to his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. "You shot me. I warned you. You didn't listen." "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is." Marcus looked at Elena one last time. Whatever he saw in her face made something in his expression break. Then he turned and stumbled out the door. Elena lowered her pistol, hands shaking violently now. Caleb moved to her, gripped her shoulders. "You all right?" "I couldn't. He was right there, and I couldn't." "Hey, look at me." He waited until she met his eyes. "You did fine. You're alive. That's what matters." Outside, the gunfire was slowing, becoming sporadic. Caleb moved to the window, peered out. "They're pulling back," he said. Elena joined him. He was right. The Thunder Hollow riders were retreating, dragging their wounded, leaving their dead. The coordinated assault had broken apart into chaos, and now they were running. Samuel's voice rose above the confusion, trying to rally them. "Hold your positions. We can still—" A rifle cracked. Samuel jerked, grabbed his side, nearly fell from his horse. "Retreat!" someone yelled. "Retreat!" And they did. Within minutes, the yard was empty except for the bodies they'd left behind. 6 men, dead or dying. On the ranch side, Elena counted 3 down. Davidson with his leg wound, a man named Cooper not moving, and someone she couldn't see clearly from this angle. The silence after the gunfire was deafening. Caleb holstered his pistol, started for the door. Elena caught his arm. "Wait, it could be a trick." "It's not. They're done." He was right. She could see it in the retreating riders' postures, in the way they scattered instead of regrouping. They'd come expecting easy victory and found a fight instead. They weren't coming back today. Caleb stepped onto the porch. His crew emerged from their positions, roof, barn, house, battered, bloody, but alive. Merrick appeared, supporting Tom, who had a gash across his forehead. "Cooper's dead," Merrick reported. "Davidson might lose the leg. Everyone else is walking wounded." "And them?" Caleb gestured to the bodies in the yard. 6 dead. Probably another 10 wounded badly enough they had to be carried out. Caleb nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. Elena descended the porch steps, moving through the aftermath. The bodies, the blood, the reality of what defending her had cost. She stopped beside one of the fallen Thunder Hollow men, recognized him. A farmer named Stevens, who'd always been kind to her mother. Now he was dead. Because of her. The weight of it crashed down. I need... She couldn't finish, just turned and walked rapidly toward the barn, her vision blurring. She made it inside before the tears came. Great! Wrenching sobs that tore out of her chest. She sank onto a hay bale, buried her face in her hands, and let it all pour out. The fear, the guilt, the horror of what she'd just lived through. Footsteps approached. Caleb sat beside her, silent, just present. People died, Elena gasped. Because of me. Because I wouldn't... They died because Samuel Voss couldn't accept no for an answer, Caleb said quietly. Because men decided they had the right to own you. None of this is your fault. Stevens had a wife, children. Then Stevens should have stayed home. Caleb? Elena. He turned her to face him, hands gentle on her shoulders. I need you to hear me. You didn't pull the trigger that killed him. You didn't organize this attack. You didn't demand a war. All you did was choose to live free. If that choice threatens people enough that they'd rather kill you than accept it, that's on them, not you. It doesn't feel that way. I know. He pulled her against his chest, let her cry into his shirt. I know it doesn't. They sat like that until Elena's tears slowed, then stopped, until her breathing evened out and the shaking subsided. Finally, she pulled back, wiping her eyes. What happens now? She asked. Caleb stood, offered his hand. Now we bury our dead, tend our wounded, and wait to see if they're stupid enough to try again. And if they are, his expression hardened. Then we make sure they regret it more than they did today. Elena took his hand, let him pull her to her feet. Outside, the sun climbed higher, indifferent to the blood staining the earth below. The ranch crew moved through the yard, grim-faced, beginning the hard work of aftermath. And Elena Ward, standing in the doorway of the barn with Caleb Rourke beside her, made a decision. She was done defending. It was time to attack. The idea came to Elena while she was helping Bess wash blood from the porch boards. She stopped mid-scrub, the brush dripping pink water, and stared at nothing. What? Bess asked. They're going to come back, Elena said slowly. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but eventually Samuel will gather more men, more weapons, and they'll come back. Probably. So we can't just defend, we have to end this. Bess sat back on her heels. And how do you propose we do that? Elena's mind was racing, pieces clicking together. Samuel Voss didn't build Thunder Hollow on righteousness. He built it on control, on secrets, on making sure no one questioned him. She looked at Bess. What if we gave them reasons to question? You've lost me. What if we expose him? All of them, the elders. Show everyone in Thunder Hollow exactly what kind of men are leading them. Bess's expression shifted. You have proof of wrongdoing? I have years of watching, of listening, of being invisible while they talked around me like I didn't exist. Elena stood, her conviction hardening. I know things, Bess. About money that disappeared from the community fund. About families forced out because they disagreed with the elders. About... She stopped, swallowed hard. About other women who refused proposals and mysteriously left in the night. I wasn't the first. I was just the first who survived. Bess was quiet for a long moment. Then she called toward the barn. Caleb, get over here. He appeared a minute later, shirt sleeves rolled up, dirt and worse staining his clothes. What? Elena has an idea, Bess said. You're going to want to hear this. They gathered in Caleb's office. Elena, Caleb, Bess, Merrick, and Tom. Davidson was upstairs, drugged with laudanum, while Doc Harris worked on his leg. Elena stood at the center of the room, suddenly aware of all eyes on her. Defending isn't enough, she started. We can fortify, we can prepare. But Samuel won't stop, he can't. If he backs down now, he loses face, loses control. Everything Thunder Hollow is built on falls apart. So what are you suggesting? Caleb asked. We attack first, not with guns. Elena's hands clenched. With truth. We expose every corrupt thing he's done, every lie, every abuse of power. We turn Thunder Hollow against him. Merrick leaned back in his chair. That's a tall order. I know, but I have information. Names, dates, transactions I shouldn't have seen but did. She looked at Caleb. Samuel keeps records. He's meticulous about it. Documentation of every decision, every punishment, every exile. He thinks it protects him, proves everything was done legally, by the rules. And you know where these records are? Tom asked. The settlement hall, second floor, locked office. I saw them once when I was cleaning. Elena's voice steadied. If we can get those records, if we can show people what's really been happening, they'll turn on him, Caleb finished. He was watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. It's risky. Everything is risky. This is different. You're talking about infiltrating Thunder Hollow, getting past however many people still loyal to Samuel, breaking into a locked office, stealing documents, getting out alive. He shook his head. Too many variables. So we planned for them. Elena, I'm going, she said flatly, with or without help, but I'd rather go with it. Silence fell. Merrick broke it. When? Merrick, Caleb warned. Boss, she's right. We can't just sit here waiting for the next attack. Merrick looked at Elena. When would be best? Elena thought. Tomorrow night, Sunday. Everyone will be at evening services. The hall will be empty. Except for whoever's guarding it, Tom pointed out. There won't be guards. Thunder Hollow doesn't have guards. They have community watchers, but those rotate through the residential areas. The hall's considered sacred ground. No one would dare break in. Except you, Bess murmured. Except me. Caleb stood, paced to the window, stared out at the ranch, his jaw working. If you get caught, he said without turning, they'll kill you, not exile, not imprison. Kill. I know. And you're willing to take that risk? To end this? Yes. He turned to face her. Then I'm coming with you. Caleb, no. Not negotiable. You want to do this, fine, but you don't go alone. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she could handle it herself, that she wouldn't risk him too. But the truth was, she was terrified, and having him beside her. Okay, she said quietly. Merrick stood. I'll come too. 3 is better than 2. No, Caleb said. Someone needs to stay here. If this goes wrong, if we don't come back, the ranch needs leadership. Then Tom goes. Tom stays. You both stay. Caleb's voice was firm. Elena and I go in quiet. 2 people can hide easier than 3. We get the documents, we get out. Simple. Nothing about this is simple, Tom muttered. No, Caleb agreed. But it's necessary. They spent the rest of the day planning. Caleb had maps of the area, rough sketches, but detailed enough. They plotted the route to Thunder Hollow, identified weak points in the settlement's perimeter, timed the evening service schedule. Elena drew the layout of the settlement hall from memory, marking the office location, the stairways, potential exits. Her hands shook slightly as she worked, but her lines were precise. The lock is old, she said, pointing. Standard pin tumbler. Should be easy to pick. Caleb raised an eyebrow. Should I ask how you know that? I got locked out of the storage shed once. Had to teach myself. She didn't mention that she'd been locked in, not out. That it had been punishment for asking questions about the community fund. Some memories didn't need sharing. As sunset approached, Sheriff Hackett appeared at the gate. Caleb met him in the yard, rifle conspicuously absent but close. Sheriff? Rourke! Hackett looked around at the boarded windows, the bloodstains still visible on the dirt. Heard you had some trouble. You could say that. Want to file a report? Would it matter? Hackett sighed. Probably not, but I have to ask. He pulled out a notebook. What happened? Caleb gave him a stripped-down version. The riders, the attack, the casualties. Hackett wrote it all down with the air of a man going through motions he knew were pointless. Samuel Voss claims you fired first, he said when Caleb finished. Samuel Voss is a liar. Got witnesses who say otherwise. I've got witnesses who tell the truth. Caleb gestured to his crew. Every man here will swear the Thunder Hollow riders came armed and aggressive. We defended our land. That's legal. It is, Hackett admitted, but it's also a mess. 6 men dead. On my property. Uninvited. And you expect me to just file this away? Forget about it? I expect you to do your job, which is upholding the law. Last I checked, home defense was legal in this territory. Hackett closed his notebook. You're right, it is. But Rourke, he lowered his voice. This isn't over. Samuel's got connections that go higher than me. If he pushes this to the territorial government, if he gets federal marshals involved, Then we'll deal with that when it happens. The sheriff studied him. You're planning something. I'm planning to protect what's mine. That include the girl? Caleb's expression hardened. Her name is Elena. And yes, Hackett glanced toward the house where Elena stood watching from a window. She worth all this? Every bit of it. The sheriff nodded slowly. All right, I'll file my report. State that Thunder Hollow initiated, you defended. But Caleb, he paused. Whatever you're planning, be smart about it. I can only look the other way so much. Understood. Hackett mounted his horse. One more thing. Marcus Voss is in bad shape. Shoulder wound got infected. He's delirious saying things. What kind of things? Things about his father. About Thunder Hollow. About women who disappeared. Hackett's eyes narrowed. Might be worth listening to, if you're interested. Caleb's pulse quickened. Where is he? Doc Harris has him. Quarantine room at the back. The sheriff tipped his hat. Good luck, Rourke. You're going to need it. He rode out. Caleb stood in the yard, mind racing. Then he turned and strode toward the barn where Doc Harris had set up his temporary surgery. Elena caught up to him halfway there. What did Hackett want? Information, and apparently he gave us some too. Caleb explained quickly. Marcus, the infection, the delirious confessions. Elena's eyes widened. He's talking. According to Hackett, they found Doc Harris washing instruments in a bucket of carbolic solution. He was a thin man, perpetually tired-looking, with steady hands and a practical manner. Where's Marcus Voss? Caleb asked. Doc Harris jerked his thumb toward a door. Back room. And before you ask, yes, he's been talking. No, I don't know if any of it's true. Fever makes people say all kinds of things. Caleb moved toward the door. Wait, Doc Harris called. He's fragile. That infection's deep. You agitate him too much. He could crash. I'll be gentle. Elena followed Caleb inside. Marcus lay on a cot, his skin pale and slick with sweat. His shoulder was heavily bandaged, dark stains seeping through. His eyes were half closed, unfocused. He looked nothing like the arrogant man who demanded Elena's return. He looked broken. Marcus, Caleb said quietly. Marcus's eyes rolled toward him. Rourke. His voice was a rasp. Come to finish the job? No, come to ask questions. What questions? Elena stepped into his line of sight. Marcus's expression crumpled. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm so... He coughed, winced. I'm so sorry. For what? She asked. Everything. The engagement, the exile, the attack. His breathing was labored. He made me. My father. He said... Another cough. Said if I didn't marry you, he'd give me to the settlement. Let them vote on my fate like they did with... He stopped, eyes closing. Like they did with who? Elena pressed. The others. The girls who said no. The families who questioned. Marcus's head lolled. He got rid of them, one by one. Made it look legal. Made it look like community justice. Caleb and Elena exchanged glances. What happened to them? Caleb asked. The others. Dead. Most of them. Abandoned in the wilderness, or... Marcus's breathing hitched. Or worse, Thomas Green questioned the community fund. 2 weeks later, his daughter Anna disappeared. They said she ran away. She didn't run. She was 16. Elena's hands clenched. Where is she? I don't know. I swear I don't know. Father handled it. Him and Elder Whitmore, and... He trailed off, consciousness slipping. Marcus, Caleb said sharply. Stay with me. Who else? What other names? Records, Marcus mumbled. Father keeps records. Everything. Every name. Every... His eyes focused briefly on Elena. You were supposed to be different. You were supposed to just obey. But you didn't. And when you didn't, he couldn't let you live. Couldn't let you exist as proof that someone could say no. Where are the records? Elena demanded. Settlement hall. Office. Locked. He coughed. A wet, ugly sound. Locked cabinet behind the desk. Keys in the Bible. Hollowed out. Exodus. Elena's heart pounded. Why are you telling us this? Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Because I loved you. In my own broken way, I loved you, and I let him turn that into something ugly, something cruel. His hand moved weakly toward her. Destroy him, please. Destroy everything he built. Make it mean something that you survived. His eyes closed. Doc Harris appeared in the doorway. That's enough. He needs rest. Caleb and Elena stepped outside. They stood in silence for a moment, processing. He gave us everything, Elena said finally. The location, the key, confirmation of what we suspected. He's trying to buy forgiveness, Caleb said. Maybe from you, maybe from himself. Does it matter why? No. Caleb's expression was grim. What matters is we use it. They returned to the office, shared what they'd learned with Merrick and Tom. So we're really doing this, Tom said. We're really doing this, Elena confirmed. Merrick stood. I'll prep the horses, light saddles, dark colors. You'll want to travel fast and quiet. We leave at dusk tomorrow, Caleb said. Gives us time to reach Thunder Hollow during services. 2 hours to get in, get the documents, get out. If we're not back by midnight, we come looking, Merrick finished. No, you stay here. Protect the ranch. Boss, that's an order. Merrick's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Elena spent that night unable to sleep. She lay in her small room, staring at the ceiling, running through the plan over and over. Every potential failure point, every place it could go wrong. Around 2 a.m, she gave up and went downstairs. Found Caleb in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee. Can't sleep either? She asked. Sleep's overrated. He poured her a cup. Nervous? Terrified. Good. Means you're taking this seriously. Elena sat across from him. Caleb, if something goes wrong tomorrow, nothing's going wrong. But if it does, Elena, let me finish. She wrapped her hands around the warm cup. If something goes wrong, if we get caught, if I don't make it back, I need you to know that this was my choice, not yours. You gave me options. You gave me safety. I'm the one choosing to risk it. Caleb reached across the table, covered her hand with his. Nothing is going to happen to you. I won't let it. You can't promise that. Watch me. They sat like that, hands linked, until the coffee went cold and the first hints of dawn crept through the windows. The day passed in agonizing slowness. Elena tried to stay busy, helped Bess with laundry, checked her pistol a dozen times, reviewed the plan until she could recite it backward. As sunset approached, Merrick brought 2 horses around. Dark bays, chosen for their ability to blend into shadows. The saddles were stripped down, no unnecessary equipment, everything designed for speed and silence. Caleb emerged from the house wearing dark clothes, his rifle slung across his back, pistol at his hip. He looked every inch the dangerous man Sheriff Hackett had warned about. Elena checked her own weapons. The pistol Caleb had given her, a knife strapped to her thigh beneath her skirt. She'd changed into her darkest dress, practical boots, her hair braided tight. Ready? Caleb asked. As I'll ever be. They mounted up. The crew gathered to see them off. Bess pressed a small package into Elena's hands. Food, she realized. Merrick clasped Caleb's arm in a gesture that spoke of years of loyalty. Tom simply nodded. Midnight, Merrick said. Not a minute later. Midnight, Caleb confirmed. They rode out. The journey to Thunder Hollow took 3 hours at a steady pace. They stayed off the main road, cutting through forest and along ridge lines where the trees provided cover. The sun sank lower, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and red. As darkness fell, they approached the settlement from the east, the direction least watched. Caleb pulled up on a hill overlooking Thunder Hollow. The settlement spread below them, maybe 60 buildings clustered around a central square. Lights burned in windows. And in the settlement hall, largest building in the square, every window blazed. Evening services. Right on schedule, Caleb murmured. They dismounted, left the horses tied in a copse of trees. From here, they'd go on foot. Caleb checked his pistol one last time. Stay close. Stay quiet. If I say run, you run. Understood? Understood. They descended toward the settlement. Elena's heart hammered so hard she was sure it would give them away. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat, every sound amplified to dangerous levels. But they made it to the edge of the settlement undetected. The singing started, voices raised in unison from the hall. The evening service had begun. Now, Caleb whispered. They moved quickly through the empty streets, keeping to the shadows. The hall loomed ahead, its windows glowing with light and sound. They circled to the back where a small door led to the storage rooms. Elena tested the handle. Locked. Caleb pulled out a thin piece of metal, worked it into the lock. Seconds later, it clicked open. They slipped inside. The back hallway was dark, lit only by ambient light from the main hall. Elena oriented herself, stairs to the left, leading up to the administrative floor. They climbed carefully, each step an eternity. The second floor was quieter. Offices lined both sides of the hallway. At the far end, a door marked Elder Voss Private. Elena's breathing quickened. They approached the door. Another lock. Caleb made quick work of it. Inside, the office was exactly as Elena remembered. Large desk, filing cabinets, bookshelves, and on the center shelf, a Bible. Elena crossed to it, pulled it down. Heavy. She opened it. The pages had been hollowed out. Inside, a small key. Got it, she whispered. Caleb was already at the filing cabinet, testing locks. Which one? Marcus said behind the desk. They moved together. Behind the desk, built into the wall, was a cabinet with a lock that matched the key. Elena inserted it, turned. The cabinet opened. Inside were ledgers. Dozens of them, years of records. Elena started pulling them out, scanning dates, found the most recent one, opened it. Her breath caught. Names. So many names. Families exiled, reasons given, actual reasons noted in Samuel's precise handwriting. Money transfers from the community fund to private accounts. Punishments doled out for questioning authority. And at the back, a list. Girls who'd refused marriage proposals. 12 names, 12 girls. Anna Green was 5th on the list. Status, relocated permanently. Elena's hands shook. Caleb, look at this. He moved beside her, read over her shoulder. His expression darkened with every line. This is... He stopped. This is enough to destroy him. We need all of it, every ledger. We can't carry them all. Then we take what we can, the most damning ones. Elena started grabbing books. Help me! They filled a canvas bag Caleb had brought, cramming in as many ledgers as would fit. Elena made sure to get the one with the girls' names, the one with the financial records, the one marked disciplinary actions. Below, the singing stopped. They froze. Service is ending, Elena whispered. We need to go. Now. They shoved the last ledger into the bag, closed the cabinet, locked it, replaced the key in the Bible. Voices drifted up from below. People leaving the main hall. Caleb and Elena moved to the door, peered out. The hallway was still empty. They slipped out, closed the office door, started for the stairs. A door opened behind them. Who's there? They turned. Elder Whitmore stood in the hallway, confusion turning to recognition, turning to alarm. Elena Ward? Caleb Rourke? His voice rose. Guards! Intruders! Run! Caleb shoved Elena toward the stairs. They bolted. Behind them, Whitmore's shouts brought footsteps pounding. Men emerging from the main hall, confusion and anger in their voices. Elena hit the stairs at full speed, Caleb right behind her. They burst through the back door into the night. There, stop them! They ran. Across the square, through the streets they'd memorized. Behind them, pursuit. Voices calling for them to stop, to surrender. A shot rang out. The bullet whined past Elena's ear. Keep going! Caleb fired back blindly, buying seconds. They reached the edge of the settlement, plunged into the forest. Another shot. This one closer. Elena's lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she didn't stop. They crashed through underbrush, branches tearing at their clothes. Behind them, the pursuers were spreading out, trying to flank. The horses. They needed to reach the horses. Caleb grabbed Elena's arm, pulled her left. This way! They burst into the clearing. The horses were there, still tied, spooked by the gunfire. Caleb threw Elena onto her horse, untied it, slapped its flank. Ride! She grabbed the reins, kicked hard. The horse bolted. Caleb mounted right behind her. They galloped into the darkness, pursuit raging behind them. Shots followed, but they were moving too fast, the forest too dense. After what felt like hours but was probably minutes, the sounds of pursuit faded. They didn't slow down. They rode hard for another hour before Caleb finally pulled up, breathing hard. You all right? He called. Elena nodded, unable to speak. Her whole body shook with adrenaline. Caleb rode close, checked her for injuries, found none. We did it, he said. Elena looked at the bag slung across his saddle. The ledgers. The proof. We did it, she repeated. And despite everything, the fear, the chase, the narrow escape, she smiled. They rode back to the ranch through the night, arriving just before midnight. Merrick met them at the gate, relief flooding his face. You made it. We made it, Caleb confirmed. He dismounted, pulled down the bag. And we got what we came for. They gathered in the office, the whole crew this time. Caleb spread the ledgers across his desk. This, he said, is the end of Samuel Voss. Elena stepped forward. Tomorrow, we take this to Sheriff Hackett. We make him file charges. We make this public. Every name, every crime, every abuse of power. We expose it all. They'll fight back, Tom warned. Let them, Elena said. They can't fight the truth. Bess picked up the ledger with the girls' names, read through it. Her expression grew colder with each line. 12 girls, she said quietly. 12 families destroyed. And everyone just looked the other way. Not anymore, Elena said. Not after this. Caleb met her eyes across the desk, saw the determination there, the righteous fury. Tomorrow, he said, we end this. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. Dawn broke gray and cold, the kind of morning that promised rain but hadn't yet delivered. Elena stood on the porch, cradling a cup of coffee she hadn't touched, watching the horizon lighten by degrees. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those names in Samuel's ledger. 12 girls. 12 lives erased because they dared to say no. Anna Green had been 16, the same age Elena had been when Samuel first approached her father about Marcus. She heard footsteps behind her. Caleb, also holding coffee, also looking like he'd spent the night wrestling ghosts. You ready for this? He asked. I've been ready for months, just didn't know it yet. He moved beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. Once we hand those ledgers to Hackett, there's no taking it back. Samuel will know it was us. He'll know we broke into his office. Good. Let him know. Elena finally sipped her coffee. It was bitter and perfect. I'm done hiding what I've done. Done apologizing for surviving. Caleb studied her profile. You've changed. I had to. No, you didn't have to. You chose to. There's a difference. She turned to face him. Is there? Yeah, one means you had no options. The other means you picked the hard road when easier ones existed. His hand found hers. You could have gone back to Thunder Hollow a dozen times. Could have agreed to marry Marcus, lived a quiet life, never challenged anything. That was always an option. That wasn't living. That was just surviving. Exactly. Caleb squeezed her fingers. And now you're about to prove that to a whole settlement of people who've been doing the same thing, surviving instead of living. Merrick emerged from the barn leading 3 saddled horses. Hackett's expecting us at his office in Coldwater Ridge by 9. We should leave within the hour. Elena nodded. I'll get the ledgers. Already packed, Caleb said. Locked in saddlebags. Merrick's coming with us this time. Tom stays here with the crew. You think Samuel will try something while we're gone? I think Samuel's got bigger problems than us right now. Caleb gestured toward the horizon. He knows we were in his office. He knows we took something. He's either preparing his defense or preparing to run. Elena hoped it was the former. Running would be too easy. They rode out an hour later, the morning sun finally burning through the cloud cover. The journey to Coldwater Ridge took 2 hours at a steady pace. Elena spent most of it silent, turning over what she wanted to say to Hackett. How to make him understand not just the crimes, but the cost. The systematic way Samuel had built his power on the backs of people who trusted him. Coldwater Ridge was bigger than Thunder Hollow, a proper town with a main street, storefronts, a hotel. The sheriff's office sat at the center, a squat building with barred windows and a weathered sign. Hackett was at his desk when they entered, working through paperwork with the resigned expression of a man who knew most of it was pointless. He looked up as they filed in. Rourke, Miss Ward, Merrick. His eyes went to the saddlebags Caleb carried. What have you got? Caleb set the bags on the desk, pulled out the ledgers. One by one, he laid them out. Evidence, he said simply. of embezzlement, corruption, unlawful imprisonment, and murder. Hackett's eyebrows rose. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious crime. Elena stepped forward, opened the ledger with the girls' names. 12 women disappeared from Thunder Hollow over the past 8 years. All of them refused marriage proposals from men in positions of power. All of them were exiled. None of them were ever seen again. Hackett leaned forward, reading. His expression grew progressively grimmer. Where did you get this? Samuel Voss's private office, Caleb said. We broke in during evening services yesterday. Took what we could carry. You're admitting to breaking and entering? I'm admitting to recovering evidence of criminal activity that you would never have found otherwise. Hackett sat back in his chair. You know I could arrest you for this. You could, Elena agreed. Or you could read the rest of those ledgers and realize that arresting us would be the least important thing you do today. For a long moment, the sheriff just looked at her. Then he pulled the ledgers closer and started reading. The silence stretched. 5 minutes. 10. Hackett's expression grew darker with each page. Finally, he closed the last ledger. This is... He stopped. Started again. This is systematic, organized, years of abuse documented in his own handwriting. He thought he was protecting himself, Elena said, proving everything was legal, done by community vote. He didn't realize he was creating evidence. The financial records alone are enough for embezzlement charges, Hackett muttered, flipping back through one ledger. Money diverted from community funds to private accounts, payments to silence families, bribes to... He stopped. He bribed Judge Carver? Third ledger, page 47, Caleb said. Hackett found it, read it, swore under his breath. This goes higher than I thought. That's why we brought it to you, Elena said. Because someone has to care enough to push it up the chain. Someone has to make this matter. Hackett looked at her. Those 12 girls, you think they're all dead? I don't know. Marcus said most were, but some might have just been abandoned, left in the wilderness like I was. Elena's voice stayed steady. Either way, Samuel Voss is responsible. The sheriff nodded slowly. All right, here's what happens next. I file formal charges. I send copies of these ledgers to the Territorial Marshal's office. I request an investigation into Thunder Hollow's governance structure and a warrant for Samuel Voss's arrest. How long will that take? Merrick asked. Normally, weeks, maybe months. Hackett stood. But Judge Carver's been bribed. That changes things. I can push this through emergency channels. Have marshals here within 3 days. 3 days is a long time, Caleb said. Samuel knows we have these. He'll be preparing. Then you'd better prepare too. Hackett locked the ledgers in his safe. Because when this breaks, when people in Thunder Hollow realize what their leader's been doing, it's going to get ugly. Factions will form. Some will deny it. Some will want blood. Let them want it, Elena said. As long as justice happens, I don't care how ugly it gets. Hackett studied her. You've got steel in you, Miss Ward. More than most people I know. No, I just got tired of bending. They left the sheriff's office an hour later after giving formal statements and signing depositions. The ride back to Ror Ranch felt different, lighter somehow, like they'd set down a weight they'd been carrying for months. What now? Merrick asked. Now we wait, Caleb said, and we make sure we're ready for whatever comes next. What came next arrived faster than expected. That evening, as the crew was settling in for dinner, a rider appeared at the gate. Not from Thunder Hollow, a stranger, dusty from travel, leading a horse that looked even more exhausted than he did. Caleb met him in the yard. Help you? The rider dismounted stiffly. Message for Elena Ward. Elena emerged from the house. I'm Elena Ward. The rider pulled an envelope from his saddlebag. From Thunder Hollow, woman named Sarah Green asked me to deliver it, said it was urgent. Anna Green's mother. Elena's hands shook as she took the envelope. Thank you. The rider nodded, accepted water and payment from Merrick, then rode out. Elena opened the envelope. Inside was a single page written in careful script. Miss Ward, word is spread about what you and Mr. Rourke discovered. Not everyone in Thunder Hollow is blind. Some of us have known for years that something was wrong. We just didn't know how to fight it. Now we do. A group of us, families who lost daughters, men who questioned the elders and were punished, women who were silenced. We're meeting tomorrow night. We're planning to remove Samuel Voss from power, to demand answers about our children. We need your testimony. We need you to stand with us. Please come. Please help us finish this. Sarah Green. Elena read it twice, then handed it to Caleb. He read it, his expression unreadable. It's a trap. Maybe. Or maybe it's real. Elena, I know the risks, but if Sarah Green is gathering people who want justice, if there are families in Thunder Hollow ready to stand up to Samuel, we have to support them. By walking back into the place that tried to kill you? By showing them they're not alone. Elena's voice was firm. All those girls, all those families, they thought they were isolated, that no one would believe them, that Samuel was untouchable. If I show up, if I testify about what happened to me, it proves he's not. It proves they can fight back. Caleb looked at her for a long moment, then sighed. You're going to go regardless of what I say, aren't you? Yes. Then I'm coming with you, and so is everyone else who can hold a gun. Caleb, you can't bring an army. I'm not letting you walk into Thunder Hollow alone. Not again. Not ever. His jaw set. They want your testimony? Fine. They'll get it. But on our terms. With protection. With backup. Elena wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him it would only make things worse, that showing up with armed men would terrify the people they were trying to help. But the truth was, she was terrified too, and having Caleb beside her, having all of them beside her. Okay, she said quietly, we go together. They spent the next day preparing. Word spread quickly through the ranch that they were returning to Thunder Hollow. The crew's reactions were mixed, some eager, some apprehensive, but all committed. Bess pulled Elena aside that evening. You sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That seems to be your approach to everything lately. Bess's expression softened. Just be careful. Sarah Green might be genuine, but Samuel Voss is desperate. Desperate men do desperate things. I know. Do you? Bess gripped her shoulders. Because I've seen you grow from a half-frozen girl into a woman who raids settlements and faces down armies. But you're still human, Elena. You're not invincible. And if something happens to you, her voice cracked. This ranch won't be the same. Elena hugged her, hard. Nothing's going to happen, I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. That night, Elena couldn't sleep again. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow, about facing the people of Thunder Hollow, about standing in front of Sarah Green and the others who'd lost daughters, and having to admit that she'd survived when their girls hadn't. Around midnight, she gave up and went downstairs. Found Caleb in the same place as before, kitchen, coffee, darkness. This is becoming a habit, she said. Bad ones usually are. He poured her a cup. You're thinking about those 12 girls. How did you know? Because I'm thinking about them too. Caleb set down his cup, wondering which ones might still be alive, wondering what we could have done differently, faster, better. We did what we could. Did we? Or did we just do what was convenient? He met her eyes. I could have pushed harder. Could have gone to the territorial marshals myself months ago. Could have risked everything on a hunch with no proof, Elena finished. Caleb, you can't blame yourself for Samuel's crimes. I'm not. I'm blaming myself for not stopping them sooner. That's the same thing. Is it? They sat in silence. Then Elena said, when I was in that office reading those names, I realized something. Samuel didn't create Thunder Hollow's problems. He exploited them. The settlement was already built on control, on submission, on the idea that questioning authority was the worst possible sin. Samuel just took those beliefs and weaponized them. What's your point? My point is that even after Samuel's gone, the work isn't done. Thunder Hollow needs to rebuild everything, the way they think about power, about women, about disagreement, and that's going to take years, maybe generations. Caleb studied her. You planning to stick around for that? Elena's heart skipped. I don't know. Are you offering? I'm saying... He stopped. Started again. I'm saying this ranch has room for someone who wants to build something different. Someone who knows what it costs to choose freedom over comfort. That sounds like an offer. It is. Caleb reached across the table, took her hand. Stay, Elena. Not because you have nowhere else to go. Not because you're afraid, Stay because you want to, because this, he gestured vaguely at the ranch, at them, because this matters to you. Elena's throat tightened. It does, you do. Then stay. What about tomorrow? What about Thunder Hollow? We deal with that, then we come home, and we figure out what comes next. Caleb's thumb brushed across her knuckles. Together. The word settled into Elena's chest like an anchor. Together. Not alone. Not fighting by herself against impossible odds. Together. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. Caleb smiled, real and warm and unguarded in a way she'd never seen before. Good, he said, because I wasn't sure what I'd do if you said no. They rode into Thunder Hollow at dusk the next day. 12 riders strong, Caleb at the front, Elena beside him, Merrick and the crew spread out behind, all armed, all watchful. The settlement was quieter than Elena remembered. Fewer people in the streets, windows shuttered, the atmosphere tense, expectant. Sarah Green met them at the town square. She was a thin woman, worn down by grief, with hair more gray than brown and eyes that had seen too much loss. Miss Ward, she said, thank you for coming. Elena dismounted. Where do you want me? Settlement Hall. We've gathered everyone who's willing to stand against Samuel. Sarah glanced at the armed men. Though I'm not sure they expected quite this much protection. After what happened last time I was here, I wasn't taking chances. Sarah's expression softened with something like approval. Fair enough. Follow me. The settlement hall was packed. Maybe 60 people, scattered through the pews. Elena recognized some. Families she'd known, people she'd grown up around. Others were strangers. All of them looked scared and determined in equal measure. At the front, conspicuously absent, were the elders' chairs. Samuel Voss was not there. Where is he? Elena asked. Locked in his house, a man said from the front row. Thomas Green, Sarah's husband. After you exposed the ledgers, after word spread about the bribes and the missing girls, we confronted him, demanded answers. He refused to speak. So we confined him, told him he'd answer to the community or answer to the law. And the other elders? Elder Whitmore fled. Elder Morrison is here, cooperating. Says he didn't know the extent of what Samuel was doing. Elena doubted that, but didn't say so. Sarah gestured to the front. We need you to tell your story, what Samuel did to you. What would have happened if Mr. Rourke hadn't found you? These people, she swept her hand across the room. They need to hear it from someone who survived. Elena looked at the faces, some angry, some grieving, some just confused, trying to understand how the leader they'd trusted had betrayed them so completely. She walked to the front. Caleb moved to follow, but she shook her head. I need to do this part alone. He nodded, stayed back. Elena turned to face the crowd. My name is Elena Ward, she began. 6 months ago, I was one of you. I lived in Thunder Hollow, followed the rules, trusted the elders, believed that obedience was the path to safety. Silence. Everyone watching. Then Samuel Voss decided I should marry his son. Not asked. Decided. And when I refused, when I broke Marcus's nose for trying to force the issue, the elders voted to exile me, threw me out in the middle of winter with nothing but the clothes on my back. A murmur ran through the crowd. I should have died that night. Would have if Caleb Rourke hadn't found me frozen in the snow. But I didn't die. I survived. And while I was recovering, while I was learning what it meant to have choices instead of orders, I started remembering things. Elena pulled out a copy of the ledger with the 12 names. Hackett had let her keep it for this. I remembered Anna Green, 16 years old, refused a marriage proposal from Elder Whitmore's nephew. Exiled 3 months later, never seen again. Sarah Green's sob was audible. I remembered Catherine Morris, 19, questioned why the community fund never had money for school supplies but always had money for the elders' houses. Exiled 2 months after that, never seen again. Elena read through all 12 names. After each one, she looked up, met the eyes of the families who'd lost them. Samuel Voss kept records of all of it, documented every exile, every disappearance, every crime. He thought he was protecting himself. Instead, he created evidence, evidence that Sheriff Hackett now has, evidence that territorial marshals are reviewing, evidence that will put him in prison for the rest of his life. The murmur grew louder. Anger now. mixing with grief. But here's what you need to understand, Elena continued, raising her voice. Samuel didn't do this alone. He couldn't have. Every exile was voted on by the community. Every disappearance was ignored by neighbors who chose not to ask questions. Every time someone spoke up and was silenced, you all saw it, and you all let it happen. The room went dead silent. I'm not saying this to blame you. I'm saying it because if Thunder Hollow is going to survive, if it's going to become something better, you have to acknowledge your part in this. You have to stop pretending that one evil man tricked an innocent community. You gave him power. You enforced his rules. You looked the other way when people disappeared. Thomas Green stood. What would you have had us do? Fight the elders? Get exiled ourselves? Yes, Elena said simply. If that's what it took. Because the cost of not fighting, she gestured at the ledger, is right here. 12 lives, 12 families destroyed, and those are just the ones Samuel documented. How many others were there? How many people left quietly, too afraid to refuse? How many bent themselves into shapes that weren't them because it was easier than standing up? No one answered. I'm not here to make you feel good, Elena said. I'm here to tell you the truth. Samuel Voss is a criminal. But Thunder Hollow created the conditions that let him thrive. And if you want to build something different, something better, you have to burn down every system that made this possible, every rule that prioritizes obedience over conscience, every tradition that treats people as property, every belief that says questioning authority is worse than letting evil continue. She set down the ledger. That's the work ahead of you, not arresting Samuel. That's easy. The hard part is looking at yourselves and deciding who you want to be. Whether you want to be a community that protects its weakest members or one that sacrifices them for convenience. Elena stepped back. That's all I have to say. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Sarah Green stood. I want to be better. I want Thunder Hollow to be better. Another person stood, then another. Within seconds, half the hall was on its feet. We can't bring back the girls we lost, Thomas Green said, his voice rough. But we can make sure it never happens again. We can rebuild this place into something Anna would have been proud of. Heads nodded, voices raised in agreement. Elena felt tears prick her eyes, but didn't let them fall. This was what justice looked like. Not perfect, not painless, but real. The meeting continued for another hour, people sharing stories of abuse they'd witnessed, rules they'd questioned, fears they'd carried. It wasn't easy. Tempers flared, arguments broke out. But underneath it all ran a current of determination. Thunder Hollow was waking up. Finally, as night fell, Sarah Green stood. We need to deal with Samuel. He's still locked in his house. The law is coming, but... She looked at Elena. You have the right, more than anyone. What do you want us to do with him? Elena thought about it, about revenge, about making Samuel suffer the way he'd made so many others suffer. Then she thought about the ranch, about Caleb, about the life she was building. Turn him over to Sheriff Hackett when the marshals arrive, she said. Let the law handle him. Don't become what he is by delivering violence when you could deliver justice. That's mercy, someone called from the back. No, Elena said. That's closure. Mercy would be letting him go. Justice is making sure he faces every consequence of what he's done. In court. In public. Where everyone can see. The crowd murmured agreement. Sarah nodded. Then we wait for the marshals, and in the meantime, she looked around at her neighbors. We start planning what comes next. Elena and the crew stayed in Thunder Hollow that night, sleeping in the settlement hall. Caleb posted guards anyway, not quite trusting the change of heart. But the night passed quietly. In the morning, Elena walked through the settlement one last time. The streets where she'd grown up, the houses where she'd known neighbors, the square where she'd been sentenced to exile. It all looked smaller now, less imposing. Caleb found her standing at the settlement gates, looking out at the wilderness beyond. Ready to go? He asked. Almost. Elena turned back to face Thunder Hollow. I used to think this place was the whole world, that leaving meant dying. Now I can't imagine staying. You don't have to imagine it. You've got a home. Yeah, I do. She took his hand. Let's go back to it. They rode out with the crew, leaving Thunder Hollow behind. As they crested the ridge, Elena looked back one last time. The settlement looked small against the vast valley. Fragile. But maybe that fragility was necessary. Maybe that's what would force them to rebuild carefully, thoughtfully. She hoped so. 3 days later, the territorial marshals arrived at Ror Ranch to take formal statements. They brought news. Samuel Voss had been arrested without incident. The investigation was expanding. Judge Carver had been suspended. Other elders from Thunder Hollow were being questioned. The system was finally, slowly, working. Elena gave her testimony calmly, precisely, answered every question, signed every document. When it was over, the lead marshal, a stern woman named Carter, shook her hand. "What you did took courage," Carter said. "Most people don't stand up to this kind of corruption. Don't risk what you risked. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. You just made the hard one." Carter nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Miss Ward." After they left, Elena stood on the porch, watching them ride away. Caleb joined her. "How do you feel?" "Tired. Relieved. Angry that it took this long." She leaned against him. "Grateful it's over." "It's not over, not completely. There'll be trials, appeals, years of legal process." "I know, but my part's done. I gave them everything I have. Now I want to live my life instead of fighting for the right to have one." Caleb's arm came around her shoulders. "What does that look like?" Elena thought about it. "I want to help run this ranch. Really run it, not just work it. I want to plant a garden, learn to train horses properly. Maybe," she hesitated, "maybe help other women who end up like I did. Give them a place to go. Options. A refuge. More than that, a choice." Elena looked up at him. "What do you think?" Caleb smiled. "I think it's perfect. I think you're perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm stubborn and angry, and I've got more scars than sense. Yeah, perfect." He kissed her then, soft and sure, and Elena felt something in her chest finally, fully settle. This was home. Not the ranch, though she loved it. Not the land, though she'd fight for it. This, Caleb, the crew, the work, the choice to stay. When they broke apart, Bess was watching from the doorway, arms crossed, wearing an expression that might have been satisfaction. "About time," she called. Elena laughed. "Were you waiting for this?" "Only for the last 4 months." Bess disappeared back inside. "Dinner's in an hour. Try not to be disgustingly happy at the table." The summer passed, then fall. News from Thunder Hollow filtered in. Samuel Voss had been convicted on multiple counts of embezzlement, corruption, and conspiracy to commit murder, sentenced to 20 years. Judge Carver had been disbarred. Elder Whitmore was still missing, probably fled the territory. The settlement was rebuilding, slowly. Sarah Green had been elected to the new council. They were writing new laws, new structures, trying to build something that couldn't be corrupted the same way. It wasn't easy. Reports came back of arguments, setbacks, people leaving, but they were trying. That mattered. At Ror Ranch, life continued. Cattle were raised and sold. Fences were mended. The crew grew by 3 as word spread that Caleb paid fair and treated people right. Elena planted her garden in the spring, vegetables and herbs and flowers that served no purpose except beauty. She learned to train horses from Tom, spending hours in the corral teaching young colts to trust human touch. And she started taking in women. The first was a girl of 19 who showed up at the gate, bruised and terrified, saying she'd run from a man who claimed to own her. Elena gave her a room, a job, and time to heal. 3 months later, the girl rode out to start a new life in California. 2 weeks after that, another woman arrived. Then another. Word spread. Ror Ranch became known as a place where women could go when nowhere else was safe. Not a shelter, Caleb wouldn't allow dependents, but a way station, a place to recover strength before moving on. Elena managed it all with the same fierce determination she brought to everything. Caleb gave her space, resources, trust. On a cold December evening, almost a year after Samuel's arrest, Elena stood in the barn watching snow fall through the open doors. Caleb found her there, as he often did. "Thinking?" he asked. "Remembering. This time last year, I was dying in snow like this. And now?" Elena turned to face him. "Now I'm wondering if I should marry you." Caleb blinked. "That's what?" "You heard me. Should I marry you? Are you proposing?" I'm asking a question, which you're not answering. Caleb laughed, full and genuine. Elena Ward, are you seriously asking me if you should marry me instead of actually proposing? I want to know if it's something you'd want, before I risk asking and getting rejected. You fought off an army, raided a settlement, and brought down a corrupt government, but you're afraid to ask me to marry you? Terrified, actually. Caleb stepped close, framed her face with his hands. Yes, you should marry me. And yes, I want you to. And if you're actually asking, the answer is yes to that too. Elena felt relief flood through her. Really? Really? He kissed her forehead. Though I feel like I should be the one asking. You can ask too. Make it official. Elena Ward, will you marry me? Yes, obviously. They stood together in the barn, snow falling outside, and Elena realized something. She'd spent so long focused on surviving, on fighting, on proving she had the right to exist, she'd almost forgotten what came after. Living, actually living, building something instead of just defending it, choosing joy instead of just refusing pain. They married in the spring, a small ceremony at the ranch with the crew and a few friends from town. Sarah Green came from Thunder Hollow with news that 3 more women from the original 12 had been found, alive, scattered across the territory, too afraid to come home before. They were rebuilding too, in their own ways. Sheriff Hackett attended, standing quietly in the back, and afterward told Elena he was proud of her. Bess cried through the whole ceremony and denied it afterward. Merritt gave a toast that was mostly threats against Caleb if he ever hurt Elena, which everyone found touching. And Elena, standing beside Caleb with the whole ranch spread out before them and the future wide open, felt something she'd never expected. Complete. Not because she'd found a man to save her, she'd saved herself. Not because she'd gotten revenge, she'd gotten justice. But because she'd fought for the right to choose her own life, and then actually lived it. The years that followed weren't perfect. There were hard seasons, failed crops, cattle lost to disease. There were arguments and setbacks and days when the work felt overwhelming. But there was also growth. The refuge program expanded, helping dozens of women find their feet. Thunder Hollow continued its slow transformation, eventually reaching out to partner with the ranch on community projects. Elena never forgot the 12 girls, never stopped pushing for answers about the ones still missing. 3 more were eventually found. The rest remained ghosts, reminders of what silence cost. But she also never stopped building. The garden grew, the ranch prospered. Children eventually came, 2 daughters who grew up knowing they could say no, that their voices mattered, that strength wasn't about control, but about choice. On quiet evenings, Caleb would find Elena on the porch, staring out at the valley. "What are you thinking?" he'd ask. And she'd answer honestly, sometimes about the past, sometimes about the work still undone, sometimes about the women they'd helped and the ones they couldn't reach. But mostly, she thought about how far she'd come. From a girl left to die in the snow to a woman who'd reshaped an entire frontier. From victim to survivor to builder. From someone who accepted what life handed her to someone who reached out and took what she wanted. That was the truth Elena had learned through all of it, through the exile, the fight, the exposure of corruption, the hard work of rebuilding. Freedom wasn't given, it was taken, fought for, built brick by people willing to pay the cost. And once you had it, once you'd bled for it, once you'd proven you could survive anything, the real work began. Not surviving, living. Not just refusing to be owned, choosing who you wanted to become. Not just breaking free from chains, building something so strong that chains could never hold you again. Elena Ward had done all of that, and in doing so, she'd proven something Thunder Hollow, Samuel Voss, and every man who'd tried to control her had never understood. Some people bend until they break. Others refuse to bend at all, and a rare few break the world that tried to break them, then rebuild it into something better. Elena belonged to that last category, and the frontier would never be the same.